In this video, I'm going to look at 3 approaches you can use to change the volume of your sounds so that they're all roughly the same volume. Unfortunately, when we're getting sounds from different packages, they often come at different volumes. One package might be much louder or much quieter than another, so we need some way to normalize all the volumes so that we can use them all together and still have them sounding nice and coherent. The first approach is to edit the sound directly using a program like Audacity. Rather than changing anything in the code, this will actually change the sound file to be louder or quieter. This does let you be precise, but it can get quite time consuming and tricky as the project grows and the number of sounds grow, so I recommend changing it in code instead. For the 2 approaches in code, we'll just go quickly over the audio manager we have here. We have an audio manager class that's a singleton like other implementations you might have seen. So we have an array of audio clips representing our actual sounds, an array of audio sources that we'll use to play those sounds, and then we have a play sound function that accepts a string for the name of the sound we want to play, and we'll loop through all our audio sources trying to find one that's available, and then we'll try and find the audio clip that matches the string we passed in, and once we've found those, we'll set the clip on the audio source and we'll call play on it. Where the volume comes in with this second approach is we've added an optional volume parameter here with the default value of 1. So the volume on the audio source is a value between 0 and 1, 0 meaning no volume and 1 meaning max volume. So we can see how we're using this over in the game manager. We're calling this play sound function with 3 different sounds. For the first sound, it's already the volume that I want, so I only need to pass the name as a parameter. But for the other 2 sounds, I want them to be quieter, so I'll specify that volume parameter here. The main downside of this approach is that we need to specify the volume every time we call play sound, and we'll often have the same sound being played from different places in the code base, so this way we need to be careful to make sure that we're passing the exact same volume parameter every single time. To make things a bit more streamlined, we can look at approach number 3, which introduces a sound config class to wrap our audio clips. So now our audio manager will use an array of sound configs rather than just an audio clip, which lets us associate some extra data with each sound, in this case, our volume. This means we've made some changes to the play sound function, so we no longer need to specify the volume here, and we're no longer looking for an audio clip, we're now looking for a sound config. So we'll see this second loop, which was looking for an audio clip before, is now looking for a sound config, and then when we go to configure the audio source, we're now setting the clip and volume based on the sound config that we found, rather than directly from the audio clip and the volume parameter that we passed in. This approach is definitely the one I would recommend moving forwards if you have a project that's likely to get a little bit larger, because you might find that you need even more data as your game goes on. For example, I have another video where we prevent sounds overlapping by adding a minimum interval to the sound config, which prevents the same sound from being played within a certain window. You can even take this system further, so rather than it just being a class that you configure in the editor on the audio manager, you can use some sort of scriptable object and then have the audio manager use those scriptable objects, so then your sounds aren't having to live in the scene directly. So that's about all you need, just to allow you to have a different volume for each sound. You might also want to look at having different volumes for different categories of sound, maybe between your background music and your sound effects and your UI sounds. This approach can be a bit limiting for that, and it's better to use audio mixers, and I'll be making another video on that shortly, so keep an eye out for that.